I have my tea, I have my Bloom Pop, and I'm ready. Happy Tuesday. We went live last Tuesday. There was an error. You may see those shorts that have been releasing this past week here, and that is just proof that we did go live. I am glad you're here every single Tuesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard. We are live, 6 Central, and whatever else time it is, Pacific, Mountain, all that. I'm glad you're here. I'm going to dive right into this one, this opening statement. And if this is your first live, you better, I got to chill. Buckle up, Buttercup. Why do I get chills right before I do this? It's fun. I guess I'm excited. Every week I read a opening statement, and the opening statement is based upon whatever it is that's happening in life or what I'm thinking. And you better be careful when it comes to this brain here. I hope everything that's happening in your life is treating you well. I hope that you realize that this place in space is one that is safe, and for you to be met with genuine acceptance. Here is the opening statement. Still doing some studio renovations. Camera moved, monitors didn't. I'm going to read right here, but this is your opening statement today. Okay. I want to tell you about a kid who built something impossible in his parents' garage and then watched the world take it from him. Not because he failed, because he made people uncomfortable. And I want to talk about what happens after, because that part, the after, is the part that nobody ever tells you about. His name is Palmer Luckey, and unless you're deep in the tech world, you might not know his name, but you have felt what he built. Every VR headset that you've ever seen, every single time someone puts on a Meta Quest or straps into virtual reality, that exists because of a homeschooled kid from Long Beach, California, who started tinkering in his parents' garage when he was just 16 years old. 16. His dad, he worked at a car dealership, and his mom homeschooled him, and his three sisters were homeschooled by their mother as well. And he wasn't some Silicon Valley trust fund kid. He was a teenager who got obsessed with virtual reality. This idea that you could put on a headset and be somewhere else. And at the time, nobody was building it right. The technology existed in pieces, but it was clunky. It was expensive. Actually, it was a joke. So this kid, 16-year-old kid, started buying broken iPhones off of the internet, and he fixed them and he began reselling them. He worked as a groundskeeper, coached youth sailing lessons, scraped together $36,000. And then he used every single penny of it to build prototype after prototype in that garage. To be precise, over 50 of them. 50 headsets. Each one was a little bit better than the last. And by the time he was 17, he'd built something that the entire technology industry had failed to build. He called it the Oculus Rift. And I promise you, if you are new here and you're like, what is this musician mortician talking about Oculus? It all makes sense. Just hold tight. Just hold tight. He put it on Kickstarter, and the internet lost its mind. The gaming community, the tech world, developers, everybody, they saw this thing and they said, this kid just changed the future. He was 21 years old when Facebook came calling. Mark Zuckerberg, the Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook. And they bought Palmer Luckey's company, the one that he built in the garage with iPhone money, for $2 billion. Here's where the story turns. And here's where I need you to pay very close attention. Because what happened next is the part of the story that will make your stomach turn. September 2016. Palmer Luckey is 23 years old at this point, and he's inside Facebook, still building, still pushing VR forward. And it comes out through a news report that he donated $9,000 to a political group, just 9,000 to a group that supported President Donald Trump and opposed Hillary Clinton. Of course, this is during one of the most heated elections that this country has probably ever seen. And it was just $9,000. I want to reiterate that from his own pocket, a very legal political donation. And the entire machine turned on him overnight. Facebook employees, the people who worked alongside him, who shook his hand, who built careers on the platform that his invention made possible, they all threatened to quit. Mass resignations were going to happen if he wasn't dealt with. And the tech press wrote story after story painting him as a villain, a funder of hate, a bankroller of internet trolls. They didn't cover his technology anymore. They covered his politics, and they twisted it into something that it wasn't. Here's what makes this a betrayal and not just a controversy. Mark Zuckerberg, the man who paid the $2 billion for Palmer's company, personally pressured Palmer. He wanted him to go public and to say that he supported Gary Johnson, who is the libertarian candidate at the time, not Trump, not Clinton. Zuckerberg wanted Palmer to flat out lie, to publicly disown his own beliefs just to protect Facebook's image. Now, by this point, Facebook is, and still to this day, but Palmer, who's young, scared, and he's seeing everything in his eyes crumble, so he thinks, he wrote an apology, a public statement that walked back his donation. And he has said since then, in his own words, that he deeply regrets writing that apology because it did not save him. It just made him look weak to the people who were already coming for him. In March of 2017, Facebook fired Palmer Luckey. No public reason, just he gone. The founder of the technology that Zuckerberg was betting the entire company's future on, the kid from the garage, just outed, erased. And Facebook stood in front of the world and they said, and I want you to hear this, they said that his departure had absolutely nothing to do with his political views, which was a lie. He lied. In November of 2018, the Wall Street Journal obtained internal Facebook emails, and those emails showed that the firing was discussed at the highest levels of the company, that it was about politics, that it was coordinated, that the public denial was manufactured. They lied. They knew they lied, and they let the lie sit in the public record for over a year while a 24-year-old lost everything. I want to talk about the part that nobody talks about because the headline is always the firing. The headline is always the scandal, but nobody asks what happened to that person at 2:00 in the morning. Palmer Luckey didn't just lose a job. He lost the thing that he built with his hands as a teenager. He lost his identity. Oculus was Palmer Luckey. Palmer Luckey was Oculus. It came from his mind, his garage, his sleepless nights. And they didn't just take the company. They took the story. They rewrote him. In the public's mind, he went from boy genius to liability, from innovator to problem. And he disappeared for months. The tech world moved on like he never existed. The people who once celebrated him, they went silent. Not one major voice inside Facebook stood up and said, "This is wrong." He later described this as having everything that he worked for his entire teenage life, his entire adult life ripped away. That's not a job loss, that's an identity collapse. When who you are and what you built becomes the same thing, and then both are taken from you at the same time, that's a kind of grief that doesn't have a name. And he was 24 years old, and the world had decided it was done with him. But here's the thing about people who build things in garages. They don't know how to stop building. And a few months after being fired, Palmer, he resurfaced. Not in Silicon Valley, not on a press tour, not begging for his reputation back. He showed up at an anime convention in Japan with his girlfriend, dressed in cosplay. Like a kid who'd remembered who he was before the world told him who to be. And then just months after being fired, he started to build again. He founded a company called Anduril Industries. I think I'm saying it right. Anduril Industries. And if you know your Tolkien, you know that Anduril is the name of Aragorn's sword. It means flame of the West. And this is the detail that matters. In the story, Anduril was reforged from a broken blade, a weapon that was shattered and then remade into something stronger. That's not an accident, that's a message. Palmer went into defense technology, autonomous systems, AI-powered military hardware. The one industry where they didn't care about your tweets, they cared about whether your technology could save lives. He started from zero again. New team, new investors, new mission, and the world barely noticed because the world had already decided who Palmer Luckey was. That company, the one nobody was paying attention to, the one built by the kid Silicon Valley threw away, is now valued at 60 billion with a B as in boom dollars. 60 boom billion. That's 30 times what Facebook paid for Oculus. The company he built from broken pieces after being publicly humiliated is now worth 30 times what they took from him. Anduril has a $20 billion contract with the United States Army, a $642 million contract with the Navy, a $9 billion autonomous aircraft program. Palmer Luckey is now one of the most critical figures in American defense technology. And here's the part that should make you feel something. Meta, the company that fired him, that lied about why, that let the world drag his name, Meta came back. They came back and partnered with Anduril to develop military XR headsets. The company that threw him away now needs him. Think about that. John Carmack, one of the most legendary developers in history, the man who was CTO of Oculus, publicly said years later after everything originally happened that he should have stood up. He called it a, and I quote, witch hunt. He said he regretted not doing more to support and defend Palmer when it mattered, when it actually cost something to say it. And Andrew Bosworth, Meta's current CTO, the head of their entire XR division, publicly apologized to Palmer Luckey. And do you know what Palmer said back? He said, and I quote, "Great story to tell now that I have dragged myself back to relevance. But you aren't credible." Then he paused, and then he said, and I quote, "Apology accepted." That's vindication. Not the loud kind, not the revenge kind. The kind where you don't need anyone to validate what you already proved with your hands. But here's what I want to say tonight. And this is why I told you this entire story. Not everybody gets vindicated. Some people carry the weight of what was done to them in the world, never finds out it was wrong. There are people that right this second in this room that are watching who were pushed out of something that they built, who had their name dragged through stories that weren't true, who watched people they trusted choose comfort over honesty. And the world moved on and nobody apologized and nobody will. That's a truth that I need you to sit with. Because if you're waiting for vindication to feel whole again, you might be waiting for something that was never coming. Some people get a $60 billion company, and some people get silence. The vindication isn't the point. I want to challenge something because there's a version of this story where people say, "Well, he should have known better. He shouldn't have made that donation. He should have read the room. He brought this on himself." That is perception. That's not perspective. Perception is utterly lazy. Perception says, I looked at the surface of what happened and I decided it was simple. I saw the headline, I picked a side, I moved on. Perception is what you do when you don't want to carry the weight of someone else's full story. Perspective is earned. Perspective says, I'm going to sit with this long enough to see what's underneath. I'm going to ask who benefited from the destruction. I'm going to ask why the people closest to the situation stayed silent. I'm going to ask what the person who got destroyed did next, because that's where the truth lives, not in the headlines, in the rebuilding. The people who judged Palmer Luckey in 2016 judged him on perception. They saw a donation. They heard a narrative. They picked comfortable outrage over complicated truth. And they were wrong. Every single one of them. The way they would do it, the way they would see it, the way they would act. That's not wisdom. That's projection. That's measuring someone else's life with your ruler. And it's the laziest thing a human being can do, to look at someone else's worst moment and say, I would have done it differently. You don't know that. You've never been in that room. Palmer Luckey said something after he was fired. He said, and I quote, I have to do something that proves they shouldn't have done that. Not, I have to get revenge. Not, I have to make them pay. Just, I have to prove that they were wrong with my work, with my hands, with what I build next. $9,000 cost him a $2 billion company. And then he answered with a $60 billion one. And the people who fired him, they called him back because they needed what he built. Again, if you're carrying something, if someone took something from you that you've built, if someone rewrote your story, if you're in the silent season where nobody knows what actually happened and nobody's asking, I want you to hear me. I read that wrong. Let me reread it. If someone took something from you that you built, if someone rewrote your story, if you're in the silent season where nobody knows what is actually happening or has happened and nobody's asking, I want you to hear me. You don't need their apology to be whole. You don't need the world to know the truth for the truth to still be true. And you don't owe anyone a performance of healing on their timeline. You just have to keep building from the broken pieces into something that they can't ignore. And that's your opening statement and story. I love that story because it has so many things inside of it. Of course, billions of dollars isn't the most relatable thing, but I think that the kid in all of us, whether you were one to set up lemonade stands or had dreams and ideas and you felt so passionate about something. We can relate to that. And maybe it was circumstances that took it from you, meaning maybe it was a move that took your dream and popped your balloon, your ideas. I don't know. I'm not going to put the reason in your brain because that's yours, but there's so many parts of this story that are relatable. And so if you're in this room and you are like, yeah, I'm kind of feeling that. I know the Palmer Lucky thing. I see you and I'm glad you're here. Let me know where you are joining us from. This is the fifth Tuesday of going live, and I am committed to that. And speaking of committed to that, I want to just dive right in because talking about writing stories for us, maybe even let's talk about the pen that we picked up and we're writing our story and we're forcing the story. We're forcing the story to be this particular way, and we come back to revisit the chapter and we realize that that's not what's really taking place. Um, you make plans and then God smiles. That's the thing that I've said, and many of social videos on all the platforms. You can follow me not only if you have not subscribed here, it's the best way to support this channel. I'd be very grateful if you do that. It is free to do, and you can click the bell to be notified when I release content and go live every Tuesday. And we also have the Mortals. The Mortals is a community because I believe in it. Community is something so important because we all want to feel a part of something, whether it's this large community or, whether it's a church or whether it's at work or school growing up. We want to be loved and love others. And that's what it's about. And the Mortals exists for that, to have the tough conversations, the ones that I don't necessarily have for the masses because and you probably understand this. There's a version of you that exists, and it's a version that's honest and authentic, yes, but you don't put it all out there. You don't wear your heart on your sleeve to everybody, and I do that. But with the Mortals, I show it all off. It's like, bro, I gotta chill. I was getting ready to make some stupid spring break analogy with beads and like give it was dumb. But anyway, I would love for you to consider joining. We are working on some new merch, and the Mortals get access to of course, exclusive access to merch before it drops, exclusive access to content before it drops, maybe even ever. And the new single that's going to be releasing, I am having the Mortals pick out the artwork. And also, when you join, you will be listed as a producer of the next single. So I'm linking that in the description. But what I was saying was, is the story that we write for ourselves. Sometimes it's not come to fruition the way in which we think in the moment. Like right now, had you said, Nathan, this is where you will be in 2026, I would have lost my mind. I would have been so mad and think, well, not mad, but I would have laughed at you to say, yeah, you're an absolute idiot because my plan was predestined. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I knew where I was going to be. I knew how many funeral homes I was going to have and life. I think true character. Well, first I want to say as maybe you came here for the funerals. Maybe you just stumbled upon this page. Maybe you didn't realize that I even am a licensed funeral director and you're a fan of the music. Maybe you had no idea that I'm a pop artist that sings funeral pop. However it is, you have found me. I'm grateful for that. And I think that we allow people to write our stories. We allow people to steal our joy. We allow people to suppress. I'll give you an example. I make content all the time. A lot of the content that I make, of course, is either in the studio here or very much inside my four walls, my residence. And so there's not this thing where I'm looking over my shoulder in public or in an environment that I don't have full control over. People coming and going, strangers, people who may judge, may have a thought, an opinion that may make me uncomfortable. Does that make sense? So that's something that I'm working on. And my point to that is, should that slight insecurity, slight concern, slight wonder, worry prevent me from creating, from showing up and sharing my gifts and talents and knowledge and creative insight with you? Because I might be worried about what someone thinks about me. If there's some part of you that doesn't do the thing that you love to do, or is afraid to share the thing that you love, or the thing that you do, you're afraid to share it because of what you may have created in your brain and thinking that other people will think or um, judge you for, that is utterly, it's absolute crazy. You're not living your life for them. Sure, life is not totally about you. That's not, there's this parallel, and I'm kind of getting in the weeds here because as a funeral director, you die to yourself every day to serve people at their most delicate of times, and so you show up for them at the cost of yourself sometimes, right? But I believe there to be this melding of those worlds, right? Where sure I can show up and I offer my gifts and talents to them, which is being compassionate, gentle, kind, consoling, all of those, and that's a gift and a talent to be that authentically. And in turn, by doing those things, I'm selflessly blessing those people. So sharing my gifts or yeah, sharing my gifts, meaning shooting content and not being fearful of what other people think about me when that content goes out, or maybe there's an opportunity where it will inspire somebody that's walking by in public, does again, it steps out of my own way, it pushes my possible insecurities out and shows up, me showing up for other people will bless other people. Not showing up for other people is actually the selfish thing. So who are you living for? And if that doesn't land, like, I don't want people to rip the wind out of your sails or you thinking that you're, does that make sense? Let me know if that's tracking in the comments. Because what my point I'm trying to make is like the moment that you stop living or thinking about other people's views or opinions or thoughts of you and doing the thing or things that you are so passionate about, do you realize like who people are, they're longing to connect with the thing or things that you have to offer. And I have to remind myself that all the time. Like, being verified on platforms and having followers, the number of followers, it doesn't make you less. I'm still a human. I still have concerns and worries and insecurities and yeah, but I would be stupid to not do something because of them. Just don't not do something and don't not pursue something because of this manufactured thing in your brain that probably isn't real in the first place. And I'm talking to myself and of course you as well. But I want to, if I can figure this out, maybe I can. Maybe not, I can't. I'm not sure. How do I do this? I'm not sure. I'm using this new platform. I wanted to, I can't do that. Hmm. Give me just a sec. What I'm trying to do. Here we go. Nope, not yet. Oh, there we oh, nope. Eat. Okay. Bear with me. I'm gonna show you what I've been working on because it makes perfect sense. It kind of ties into this. All right, here we go. Here we go. Maybe. Hello? Go. Why aren't you working? Hello? Hold on. I What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do a picture in picture, okay? Why do you gotta be so hateful? Shift 5. Go. Uh, uh-oh. Nope. Mm-mm. Nope. That's not what I meant to do. This is amazing. Uh, let's see here. Let's see. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. I'm trying, people, okay? I'm really trying. And go. I don't know that I'm gonna go to the be able to do this. Okay. What I was wanting to do was, uh, show you I was trying to share a screen, and I'm using a platform that obviously is Oh, hold on. I'm not sure what's going on, but something just happened. That's definitely not what I meant to do. Okay. Well, if you're sticking around with me right now, sorry about all that. Okay. All right. I will do that again some other time. All right. I just maximized the entire screen. Now I'm insecure. I'm so insecure. Okay. I wanted to talk a little bit about selection room. Selection room, it was a nice segue. So, all that to say, the funeral profession, and that's where all of this kind of happened and started from. I was going to be the next Justin Bieber, which, by the way, did you see Biebs on Coachella or at Coachella? Dude, people were like, "He was lazy." No, dude was brilliant. He was brilliant, and from what I was reading, it was because all of his old catalog, right? He wasn't able to perform those songs as far as having the band up and, like Baby and One Less Lonely Girl, but he could go to YouTube and play it off of his laptop and perform alongside it. That was utterly brilliant. It was amazing, and I loved his setup, how it went from and it kinda rose. It was almost like he was on a planet of sorts. Did you check it out? I mean, I'm all about Justin Bieber. I don't know. I don't know why it's dropping like that. Probably because I had it in full screen and I'm using so much. There we go. Okay. So I was going to be the next Justin Bieber. I was gonna travel the world and I was gonna be living in LA and instead of that, of course, I came back home with my tail between my legs. I was touring and signed and dropped and signed and dropped, in the music industry at the time that I'd fallen in love with was changing so rapidly, and I wasn't, I guess, pivoting well enough or adapting well enough, and so I thought I was a failure, and I guess I'll start working at a funeral home. And I became licensed and then started a family, had children, and grew a company, and always wanted to create. Always. I love creating and leaned on it very heavily, specifically during COVID, and wrote some songs that really blessed a lot of people. My song Yet went to number 15 on Billboard, and yeah, Last Time followed it and it went to number 16. And then all of the social media happened where authenticity wins, and everyone of you showed up and you kept showing up and you stayed. And there's been seasons where I had thought I was being authentic, or there are seasons of grief and there are seasons of versions of, and it's been this constant refining, but it's the thing, and it goes back to man plans and God smiles. That's the whole point of this, and the story aspect is you write the story changes. Because the story changes, there are moments in life where we feel we are failures, but it's the thing that we think we failed at is the thing that takes us back in a more profound way than we thought we would be to a place, right? So it was the music that I was grieving and the life of being a funeral director, but it's becoming the funeral director where I realized perspective, where I realized compassion, kindness, gentleness, slow to judge, slow to anger. And these are things that, of course, I'm not perfect at. These are things that I've struggled with and still sometimes do, but I'm mindful of them. I'm more aware, intentional. The songs that I have been able to write because of feeling those feelings, those because I am able to. genuinely and authentically be like, "Hold on." A lot of people, I say it, I'll get to that about grief, but I grieved what I thought my life was to be and then embracing the life that is what propelled the music, and then also opened up my eyes to see life and to connect with you in a way that I would have not possibly been able to otherwise. The inspiration from the things in which I've witnessed, the people in which I've connected with, the people in which I've sat with. Grief is a thing that we all experience and are navigating in some form or fashion at all times, in all moments. And experiencing grief, there's victory in it, and there's also such a gift in it because it opens your eyes if you allow it. Brr, gotta chill. I know it now makes my body chill. It's because these in-ears here, and there's a certain when my voice hits a certain I got goosebumps. When my voice hits a certain decibel, it vibrates in my ear a certain way. When we grieve, it'll make us either bitter or better. And if we choose better, then we see the world better. And then we're able to see and accept people who are being jerks when they drive or were rude at the gas station or other silly scenarios where you're able to say, oh, maybe they've had a really tough day. Maybe they're struggling in some way. That's perspective. Perception is just seeing the world how you need to be this way because that's how I perceive. We write their stories for them. In other words, don't let people write your story. And maybe you're in a season where someone has, and you were not in a place to uh, take the pen. Maybe you think that too much time has passed, or maybe you think that your your days are up. We all have. Neither one of us have lived before. We're all trying this thing out in the with what we have, in front of us. We're all just trying to figure it out. There's something powerful about being able to be gentle. So take that pen and go back and read what you had written for your life, and maybe there's a place to add to. Well, there's tons of places to add to. My point is, I mean, we're not promised tomorrow, but pick up the pen and go. Maybe you aren't where you think you are supposed to be. I talk about it, and I'm ashamed to say it because I get on social media and I say the things that I do, and I'm encouraging, and I really mean that, but I'm ashamed because sometimes I don't practice that for myself. But you cannot fail if you don't quit. You can't control others. You can't control other people and what they do, have done, say, don't say, think, don't think, but you can control how you react or not, and you can control how you handle. We aren't promised tomorrow, so I think the thing that I wanna make sure I get across is to do the thing. Um, the things that you love that ignite you. If obviously you've gotta pay bills because that's obviously how we live, and we live in a society that things cost money, and we have to earn money to spend the money to buy the things that we need to live. maybe you're working as an administrative assistant and you're not doing what you absolutely love, which is knit. And I use that example because it might sound silly, but knitting sweaters is the thing that just fires you up. And until that pays your bills, you've got to be the administrative assistant, but doesn't mean you can't knit or make time to knit at night. Stephen Pressfield, he wrote a book called The War of Art, and he talks about how he would intentionally he goes and he writes for a certain amount of time every day, a few hours, even if it's garbage. As an author, he shows up in a place and a space and he puts pen to paper and he writes because that showing up over and over and over, it is a very powerful thing. And maybe that's what you should be doing. Even if you're at the administrative assistant job, you need to go home and eat your hot pocket and then show up and knit 2 sweaters. I don't know. I think knitting a sweater would be a very long process, 1, and so maybe doing 2 would be a little too much, but I think it's important. And you aren't a failure for having this plan and this idea for life, and then it kind of pivoting I was gonna say a lot, a lot, but it's beautiful what happens, in the pivot. I just think about, all the things that I've learned with business and with hospitality and experiences and colors and with AI and with social media and the way to connect with and the Jones effect and the loop effect. The Jones effect and the loop effect are ways in which you tell the stories so that you become the thought leader. That's has to do with the Jones effect. And then the loop effect is, you have this open loop and that's catching the hook, like it hooks you in and you don't stop watching a video until the loop closes, beginning, middle, and end. I mean, we long for having the story kind of end. My point is and maybe as a I don't know. It would have I don't know that it wouldn't have blah, me being in the being in LA. I mean, obviously all the things that have come out of LA, especially the it's busted, but not even from a political standpoint. I mean, it's dangerous and it would have chewed me up and spit me out. So that's probably a blessing in disguise. I mean, I'm still here because of not being the next JB right now. And it's also amazing because the songs that come from witnessing so many people, like the song "Feel a Little Closer." I'll never forget when I walked into the restaurant, the bistro, just to pick up a sandwich, and the family that were sitting at the table on the left, it's a small little restaurant in my hometown. And they stood up and they said, "What are you doing here?" I mean, obviously, I'm at a restaurant to pick up a sandwich, but they were saying it because I just buried their parent, and the last time they saw me was in this grief-induced, this heavy grief moment, and then here I am again, and I probably reminded them of their loss, and that's a little bit of a burden, because funeral directors as a whole, but me speaking personally, I want people, we all do, I think, to a degree. We want people to like us. And then you have somebody, what are you doing here? Like, get out. And you're like, and that's something that I think that a lot of funeral directors, because we represent a loss, a death. And when they see us, it reminds them of their loved one who they're absolutely grieving. But that song, what do you think that you're doing here? Many times been asked that before. Honestly, is it me that they're fearing? It's like yeah. I mean, that song couldn't have happened if I wasn't a funeral director. If I didn't experience that thing, if I wasn't in Owensboro to be the funeral director, to walk into the bistro. It's pretty powerful. Yeah. I think I am. Um, at the end of this live, stick around. I'm gonna perform that song. Feel a little closer. I'm gonna do it. You never know what you're gonna get here. So if you are new here and this is your first live, again, thank you because you could be doing anything else, anywhere else with anyone else. And to be with me means a lot. A lot of really cool things are happening. I would love for you to join the Mortals. I'm going to link it. And also you can follow me on all the socials and subscribe. Most importantly, that's the free thing to do. And it helps this channel so much more than you know. Maybe share it with this video with somebody who could use it because every Tuesday when we go live, it's a place and space where you can be 100% you and accepted because I genuinely accept you, whether you have much or little, whether you pray or don't, whether you, yeah, you're welcomed here. I talked about Selection Room way back just for a minute and then I got sidetracked, but I'm a goldfish and then I get back to where I'm going. Selection Room is a new little project of mine. The funeral profession does beautiful. It's been largely unchanged and people in the funeral profession are the most closed-minded individuals ever are overall. The seasoned people are, how dare you talk about what we do back behind the four wall or behind those doors? How dare you have social media? I mean, I've been saying if your local funeral home, you should audit them. I think that if a funeral home does not have a proactive social media, then you shouldn't choose them because if they're cutting corners, the thing that is the most simple thing for them to do, just it's a free page, like right now, being with you here. Like, why wouldn't I be live? Why not share my thoughts and my ideas because it will connect with and resonate with someone. Where else would a funeral home possibly be cutting corners? Why aren't they on social media? So that's one of my things that I've been saying is like, hey, if they don't have proactive social media, perhaps don't use them because where else are they cutting corners? Funeral profession, they throw a lot of rocks. It's a beautiful profession though, too. Um, but all of that, a few years ago, I started to pull back the curtain and got a lot of flack for it. But there's something beautiful about it because people come in droves and we see that with nearly 1,000,000 followers across platforms. But Selection Room exists because there are a lot of funeral directors and professionals that are wanting to create content and they just don't know how. They don't know how because it's a lot. It's a massive learning curve. And sometimes, yes, sure, just put your phone and film yourself. But there's more to it than that even, right? You like, what do you film? How do you become comfortable? Uh, there's tons of other things. And so Selection Room is a platform that I created where it is taking real-time Google Trends, Reddit threads, questions people are actively seeking answers to online any given moment within the funeral space, whether it's pre-planning, cremation, and it generates a script, captions for each platform specific to the platform or platforms that you'd be posting it on, hashtags relevant to that platform. And the idea is an idea around a trending topic in the funeral space. It's really cool. You can sign up for free, selectionroom.io. I have it linked in the description. It gives you a free idea a day. There are also tiers available to you where you can have up to 100 ideas per month. You can even have where I will help you with all of it, do an entire takeover of social media because obviously I didn't go viral and continue to go viral on a fluke. Well, the first time was a fluke. Chill. Which one was that was a the first time was a fluke. And I have Haley Rice to thank for that. She was doing social media and she filmed a tour of care center, an embalming facility that I gave to 18-year-old high school seniors. And the ones thereafter were intentional, and they've been that way ever since. But I would love for you all to check out selectionroom.io because people are looking for answers to questions that they have about funerals, the funeral homes. Uh, it's intriguing. It's interesting. It's the train wreck that we can't look away from. Speaking of train wrecks, I have buried somebody that had died on a train. Yes, not on the train, but they died because they were on the train tracks. Pretty wild. Yeah, check that out. I would love it. And also, there's one other thing before Bloom Pop is. And this isn't a plug. I mean, I'm not plugging it intentionally. I, I'm trying to give an analogy for what this is. Do you know that? Okay. Do you know that nostalgic feeling you get when you think about like a really good moment as a kid? Maybe you pass your childhood home and you had like a really cool thought and memory about a specific thing, and it's like that blip of dopamine. Uh, this is Bloom Pop Shirley Temple. That is what this first taste sip tastes like, and then it tastes good after that. But it's like this is nostalgia in a can. That's what this is. I love it. I love it so much. It's delicious. Just got a big old thing of it. Okay. I said I was gonna play, Feel a Little Closer, and I will have to do some clicking here in a minute. I've got so many computers, but I wanna talk a little bit about you, and you are good enough, you are valued, you are worthy. Life was never promised to be easy or without struggle or hurt, and I'm not sure where in our childhood maybe our parents did that to us because they were the products of parents raised during the Great Depression, maybe if you lived in the United States, and so there's they thought by saying or protecting or that it was helping. I don't know, I haven't done a deep dive on that to figure it out, but somewhere along the way, we were lied to and saying that life was way, rainbows and beautiful and stuff, and it's not. It's not always, and I just want you to know that you are valued. And in the moments in my life where I didn't feel in the least bit worthy or stood up for or protected or honored or the things just that human decency gives, right? I mean, like, I am hopeful that by my showing up here and telling you that I meet you here is giving and offering that. And joy, happiness is a choice. Bitter is a choice. Better is a choice. And I hope that you choose wisely. And also hope that you realize by your showing up what it can do for not only yourself, but others. That's my entire hope. So I'll keep showing up and, whether 2 people are here with us, and again, hopefully I'll get all this worked out. I still have not yet, but super chats are open. I would love it if you're here with me still. I would love it. You could support this channel by subscribing, by also becoming immortal, offering super chats, and then we'll be acknowledging everybody who has dropped a super chat and everybody who joins the Mortals. You're going to be listed as a producer on the next single, which I'm going to announce very soon. The Mortals, you're going to hear about it very first. First, you can do all that, linking it in the description. I am going to figure out how to do this. Yeah, I'm gonna perform feel a little closer. And the song, just to explain it in detail, is the lengths that a funeral director will go at the cost of self so that families can have just a little bit more time, or um, have the space and the place is pretty extravagant, and at the cost of relationships or at the cost of their own health. So there are a lot of details in the song, a lot of lyrics that are very conducive with the place and the space that is the funeral home. And so if you're in the funeral profession, I know that these words are relatable. If you are someone who has experienced the loss, then I hope that hearing these words help you realize how loved not only your loved one is, but you are, for everything to be done the way that it is. Yeah. So, all right. Without further ado, this is Feel a Little Closer.
Yeah, I need that basement.
This is Feel a Little Closer. This is Feel a Little Closer. Curb appeal is heartbreaking. Seeing familiar faces waiting, senses and smells you aren't taking. Promises promising, this line's not stopping. Straightening, all of this anticipating. You will never find me wavering. I'll keep the doors open, closer. Stay a little longer tonight. Be a little closer before you have to say your last goodbyes. Closer, closer. What do you think that you're doing here? Many times been asked that before. Honestly, is it me that they're fearing? I'll bring the death and grief, lay it out on the flooring. I'll shine my shoes to get them gleaming. Grab my suit straight from dry cleaning. For you and the strangers streaming. I'll keep the doors open, closer. Stay a little longer tonight. Be a little closer before you have to say your last goodbyes. I just love too much. Ambitions keep exposing me. Such a tender touch is the life and death of me. Work of mercy, work in me. Keep me company. Help me to see the beauty
amidst the grief. Closer, longer tonight. Closer, say your last goodbyes. Closer,
Thank you so much for being here. Your love far more than you could ever know.